there are a lot of videos. I went to search for the topic, and there are a lot of videos and analysts that claim that the Europe, before it used to be the USA, dumbing down of America, but now they are claiming the same is happening to Europe, the stupidification or the dumbing down of Europe. And in one of my previous videos I've talked about social media and these social media influencers, which, by the way, I want to set something straight. I'm not against social media. I think it's a great thing, as well as television, as well as any other new technology that put us together, put us closer to each other. It's the use that it's done of it, especially on these so-called influencers, okay? And it's not a problem to influence others, because that always has taken place one way or the other, with or without social media. But we do recall when the great influences of many people were the great thinkers, the great inventors, great philosophers, right? Not some guy or girl with promoting brands for sports clothing, or some sports supplements, shit like this, pure consumerism. So that's my main critique goes towards that, because you can influence your friend to do something because you are doing something that you get enthusiastic about it. This is normal. I start doing a new activity and I go to my friend and say, you should try this. Perfectly normal. The other thing is that when you become a machine for the capitalist, a cog for the capitalist machine, and you're just a promoter of consumerism and shallow values, okay, you get the point. That was the other video. This one I want to talk about this dumbing down. And it used to be that the idea of the dumbing down of a nation was through these channels of information, be it TV, whatever, cinema, whatever. But they were supposed to be to dumb down the people, the working classes, to distract them for many things. The problem is, I'm afraid, and this is my opinion, of course, the problem is that I do believe that we have a whole political class now of dumbed down people. People who haven't been through many hardships as previous leaders, who are grown up in artificial bubbles due to their privilege, who are only eager to achieve some status, who have deep inside, they have no moral values. They can detach themselves from the moral values. And the perfect example for this is when you look at the face, look in the eyes of what I call the low-cost version of evil on earth, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen, when she is talking about Palestine. Of course, this is not exclusive of her, but she is an European example of this. And it seems like almost those Nazi figures that are portrayed in the movies about the Second World War, these very cold and dark people that very lightly just press the button to release the Zyklon B and exterminate hundreds of persons. She does that. I'm afraid it seems to me that she does have that look in her eye. And it's the same people. It's the same. It's like you have cut a big chunk of this tumor, the NAZI tumor, but it somehow metastasized through the whole world. And we know this. We had they haven't disappeared. They just changed their uniform, changed their symbols. But a lot of the people stayed the same. They went to work in various countries. They stayed in. They held. I don't recall the name of the person, but the one that was holding high places in NATO. But okay, you could think that they were also victims of that system of the time, victims of that euphoria. They had to align with the system. They didn't know better. But I start to think it's not like that, or something else. Because it does seem that the same people are running the things in the West again. And this obsession with destroying Russia, I wonder who was. Can you remember of some well-known person that had this obsession? Well, many actually, but one was most notorious for it, because he was really the subhuman people, he called them. So, and there is it again, the same obsession. Because at least when the French tried to conquer Russia, they did not consider them this subhuman species. It was the last attempt to conquer this land. Was the most were the most radical and fixed ideas. And I do think because of this is only possible if you put people in power. First, they are not very intelligent. Second, high degree of narcissism. And third, no morals whatsoever. Absence of morality. Just obsessed with themselves and to look good on the spotlight, although they are not really calling the shots. But it's enough for them to pretend. Miss Ursula von der Leyen, she's a weak leader. All of this, Macron is a weak leader. Sunak is a weak leader. They don't really call the shots. They just put in place. They are sponsored. They are the salesmen of the company. All suited up, all dressed up, a lot of rhetoric, a lot of vocabulary. Sometimes not that much, but that's more on the USA department. In Europe, you have what it looks like to be the cream of the salesman and woman running the show. And you can see clearly here that there is a plot. Although I do hate to use this word, I do not like conspiracy. I do not like to oversimplify and say a group of small people who are controlling every government or a substantial number of governments to achieve an ultimate power goal. Does that sound too conspiracy for you? I really hate to talk like that. I really hate because I really don't know. I'm speculating. But I'm speculating not based on the thin air. I'm speculating based on history, some history knowledge, and of what I see, which is the recent history and nowadays behavior of the governments. And you compare it, and it does really seem like, because I do remember when some governments try to act independent and somehow something happens and they are put in line. Do you remember in the early stages of the Russian incursion, of the Russian SMO? In the early stages, I remember Germany having a lot of ifs. What about if this, if that? Germany had a lot of doubts in what it was doing. I remember Germany not allowing, was it Germany? I think it was. Not allowing transports from Britain with weapons, because there were, at some point, a few months before, a lot of, it was like an aerial bridge from Britain to Ukraine with military equipment. And they had to go around an airspace, which I could swear it was Germany. And you please, if you want to check it out, I don't want to lie, I don't want to speculate based on lies, but I know that Germany was reticent. Germany was not sure of what it was doing in the beginning, and then something happened that it made it go on board unconditionally with the rest of the pack. And because that is obvious. And that is obvious. For me, the only big mystery today is still knowing that these people that cheer for Ukraine, some of them, they don't know any better. They think Ukraine, oh, it was my neighbor got greedy and wanted to invade me, so it was completely unjustified aggression, la la la, so they have the right to defend themselves. If that were the case, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do think they still have the right, of course, to defend themselves. But that's completely inaccurate picture, because it is not a conflict between Ukraine and Russia. It is a conflict between NATO, the West, and Russia. Ultimately, the goal is not Russia, although it's a very tasty prize. All the resources, all the land, everything unlimited, it seems. I mean, they loved it when the Soviet Union dissolved and it was all run by mobsters. The West loved it. They call it our friends, our Russian friends. Do you remember that? When did it change? It changed when Russia wanted to follow her own way, her path of sovereignty. So that's the true obsession. But people keep believing in that Russia is somehow evil and wants to conquer all of Europe. And this propaganda, it's very nasty, very nasty. But this propaganda, like I think I've mentioned this earlier as well, it only works if you are very ignorant of the reality. You can never be an intelligent person. It doesn't matter, because intelligence can be measured in many ways. You know that, right? It's not just one intelligence. You have many types of intelligence. But the ones people are lacking now is the intelligence to doubt. The capacity, or rather, not the intelligence, but the capacity to argue and to place accurate questions, to doubt, to think logically. This skill has been taken away from school curriculum. Students more and more question less, consume more shit, mindless shit, although many of them can be very intelligent. But you have to train this trait, right? You have to train this skill. Asking the right question. Asking the right question is much more important than knowing a lot of answers. No doubt about this. You just have to think, if this was that, why? This doesn't make any sense. Once I was having a discussion with a friend of mine. He's from Finland. And I mean, we have met when I was studying there, and then we met almost 20 years after, and we went for dinner, and I touched this was last year, and I touched the subject of Ukraine, and I made some comment which caught his attention, and then he wanted to talk more. And he's a journalist, he reads a lot, he's a well-informed person. And immediately when we started to talk, after a while, he started to accusing me that I was just spewing Putin's talking points. And it was very hard to pierce into this shell, because once he got in there, he began to patronize me, which I told him not to do because I immediately noticed that. And I was getting desperate, not reaching to, because he's very intelligent, he thinks a lot, but somehow this propaganda, this anti-Russia propaganda was so embedded that he couldn't get out of this narrative. And I took a deep breath at some point and told him, look, name me, please, name me one country, post-World War II that was better, and you have many to choose from, many, and I just need one. I mean, I'm satisfied with one. I could argue that it's not the majority, it's only one, but I won't argue that. I will be satisfied if you name me one country that was better after US has delivered their democracy and freed their people. One country. And this one question made him stop that propaganda spinning he was embarked on. Because I tried to argue history, the EU's history, because it also knows history. Oh, but in the 17th century there was already some identity, Ukrainian identity or something. Oh, but in this it was so if he does this it gives me the right to do that. So he was using this bad comparisons, and if the neighbor invades the house of the other neighbor, this kind of shitty logic. And once I've made him this question, name me one, and after this he kept quiet. He stopped, he looked at me, and I could see in his eyes that he was really, I mean, the cogs in his brain machine were conflicting, were cracking, crack, you know, when the machine is not, it has some hiccup and it's not working properly, the mechanics of it makes some noises. That was clear in his eyes. And after that I just waited a few seconds to give him time to reply, and then I asked, and you do know the motives of Iraq invasion, of Libya invasion, Vietnam, Korea, Syria. So, were those delivering democracy? And then I rested my case. But you could see that he was all the narrative was destroyed. But it is this example for me. It served to see the depth of the propaganda, that it can reach even the most intelligent people. And you can argue, oh, but you're defending the Russians, and the Russians are guilty of a lot of things, whatever. I'm not saying they're not. Have you ever heard me say this? That they were the saints, the saviors? No, not at all. By the way, no country is. No country. Take the example of my country, Portugal, for example, or the neighboring Spain. I mean, I don't have to say more, right? I could go to the Belgium example, or to the British example. Those are really hardcore genocide, right? No country. I mean, wars have been, but now the political situation now, and if we live finally in a world where people have the chance to be awakened, have the chance to be conscious, have the chance, finally, the opportunity, we have the abundance. Finally, we have the abundance not to have to be quarreling with each other for resources. But we still do. Out of greed for power, out of mental illness in my opinion. A lot of mental illness. I mean, some people say it's pure evil. I remember making this question to Russell. We were standing in the market in Donetsk, the one that was bombed several times and killed a lot of civilians and maimed a lot of others. And we were standing in front of this market, and on the other side of the street there's a church, an Orthodox church. And Russell was explaining that they were trying to hit the church, but they missed just a little bit, so it landed on the market, this rocket. And I asked himself, and this is on video, so I think it's one of my videos in Donetsk, in my YouTube channel. But why would they? I mean, I was like, why were they trying to hit the church? And Russell, in his genuine, in his purity, told me, because they're Satanists, bro. And of course, this explanation for me, it doesn't satisfy me, because I'm not a religious person. But it makes more and more sense after what we see. The more we see, I mean, Israel, Palestine all is there. All is there, concentrated on steroids. What is it if not evil? What is it if it's not a matter of morality? Forget science there. It's a matter of pure morality. And the Israeli government in charge have no morals. So maybe you could argue they are Satanists, pure evil, or something like this. Psychopaths for sure. So yeah, I do hope I see you on the next one. And I mean, if you like, just press the like button and notifications bell. If it really tires your hand or your finger to do that, I don't know what else to tell you. I hope I see you on the next one.